The wait is over. Now, the biggest 20 podcasts on the world's #1 podcast radio station. We're back counting down the podcasts. The Podcast Tonight Chart Show with Clark Hartwell.
Hello, podcast fans, and welcome back to our weekly roundup of the top 20 podcasts from across the globe. And welcome to 2024. It's our first chart show of the year, and we've had some major shifts since our last show, where Crime Junkies made it all the way to #1. And this week, we have 10 new entries, 1 non-mover, and 1 big question. Did the Crime Junkies make it to 2 weeks at the top of the charts?
This is the Podcast Tonight Chart Show. Clark Hartwell, counting down this week's podcast chart.
It's Sunday, it's the Podcast Tonight Chart Show, and you're with myself, Clark Hartwell. How would you feel having the chance to win a cool $1,000 this January? Well, the Podcast Tonight Network are giving you the chance to do just that, and I'll be releasing details within the next 15 minutes of how you can get yourselves involved.
This is the Podcast Tonight Chart Show. Number 20.
And in at number 20 this week, we have a brand new re-entry, the New Heights podcast with Jason and Travis, bringing their weekly insights and sharing unique perspectives on the NFL news and sports headlines.
Number 20.
Tell the people what we got coming up.
We got another great episode lined up here.
All right, man.
Depending on who you're coming here for. We're going to recap both of our Week 17 home games, get to some fan mentions, including a Mayo-related incident and video that Travis will surely get a kick out of. And we're also going to break down the biggest storylines from around the league as we head into the last week of the regular season.
Gotta break it down.
But first, as always, new news!
New news!
Experience the best podcast the planet has to offer at podcasttonight.com.
You've just been listening to the New Heights podcast, which placed at number 20 this week. And moving down the charts at number 19 is another new entry, Hot Mess with Alex Earle. If you love personal stories filled with chaos, humour and raw honesty, this one's definitely for you.
This is the charts. Number 19.
Buckle up, everybody. This is about to be a hectic episode. It's the one that everyone's been waiting for. The year is coming to an end, and I thought, why not go over all of the tea of 2023? Drama, headlines, everything I have been staying silent on. We are going to go month by month, and I'm going to give you the full behind-the-scenes scoop. I'm like a little scared for what I'm about to say in this episode. I'm really hoping I don't create more problems from this. I'm definitely going to. Welcome back to another episode of Hot Mess with Alex Earle.
You're tuned into Podcast Tonight Radio. You're listening to Podcast Tonight.
Thanks for joining us on the Podcast Tonight Chart Show. You're with myself, Clark Hartwell, and that was the Hot Mess podcast with Alex Earle, and you find it at number 18 this week. Last week, the Crime Junkies hit that number 1 spot, so hang tight to see if they can make it 2 weeks at the top of the charts.
Not heard your favourite podcast in the top 20? Tag your favourite podcast below to give them a shout out.
And making its debut entry into the charts at number 18, it's an everyday exploration of the Bible in a year. Sounds like an enlightening journey. It's the Bible Recap Podcast.
This is the charts. Number 18.
Hey, Bible readers. I'm Tara Lee Cobble, and I'm your host for the Bible Recap. Here we are. Can you believe it? Congratulations on crossing this milestone. Whether this is your first trip through the whole Bible or the New Testament, or if you've done this many times before, it's still worth celebrating. I hope you have something planned. What have you learned this year? This was my 10th trip through the Bible, and I've still learned something new every single day. Let's talk about what we saw in today's reading of Book 27 of the New Testament and Book 66 of the whole Bible. We're in the final chapters of John's vision of the revelation of Jesus. After God's massive victory yesterday, heaven erupts in a party today. The multitudes in heaven praise God for his justice and truth and salvation and glory and power. And suddenly, it's time for the marriage of the Lamb and his bride, Christ and the church, clothed in purity, in fine white linen. The angel who has been guiding John through these visions tells him to write down that those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb will be blessed. And guess why this is such a blessing? Because those invited are the bride.
Follow us on our socials at Podcast Tonight.
And in at 17, we have the What Now podcast with Trevor Noah. It bounces back down the charts after placing at number 8 just last week.
Number 17.
Happy bonus episode day, everybody.
Happy bonus episode day.
Yeah, we are gonna have 2 episodes this week, and I thought it would be fun to do it for 2 reasons. One, because we won't have an episode next week because it is, of course, us celebrating the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and so we'll be taking a break for that, right? So, Merry Christmas to everyone, and if you do not celebrate Christmas, enjoy hell. For the rest of you, we're gonna be making this bonus episode. We're gonna be making this bonus episode, and you know why? It's because AI has been a big part of the conversation over the past few weeks. We spoke to Sam Altman, the face of OpenAI, and what people think might be the future or the apocalypse. And we spoke to Janelle Monáe, which is a different conversation because obviously she's on the art side, but her love of technology and AI and androids, and it sort of gave it a different bent or feeling.
This is Podcast Tonight. How would you feel winning $1,000 this January? We're giving away a huge $1,000 on January 31st. To enter, simply subscribe to the Podcast Tonight Chart Show on YouTube and like this video. Number 16.
Big congratulations to the What Now podcast for making it 2 weeks into the charts and making its grand entry onto the chart at number 16. We welcome the Mel Robbins Podcast, where she talks about motivation and mindset shifts.
This is the Podcast Tonight Chart Show. Number 16.
It's your friend Mel, and welcome to the Mel Robbins Podcast. So I was in a yoga class the other day, and as I was heading out of the class looking like a hot and sweaty roasted tomato, these 2 amazing women come up to me, Kathy and Teal. Huge shout out to Kathy and Teal. You know who you are. And whenever anybody approaches me who is a fan of the podcast, I am so thrilled to know that these episodes that we are taping above my garage in Vermont and in our studio in Boston are going around the world and reaching you and helping you create a better life. Like, there is nothing that is more satisfying than knowing that all of this hard work is making a difference. And so Kathy and Teal come up to me, and one of the things that I like to do, and you better be prepared for this, if you see me out in the real world and you approach me, I'm going to pull out my phone and I'm going to videotape when you come up, because I have a question for you. What topic do you want me to cover? What experts do you want me to have on the show?
Keep up to date with us. Search your socials for @Podcast Tonight.
That was Mel Robbins in at 16, talking motivation and mindset skills. And yet another hot topic over the last few years has been mental health. And in at 15 today sees yet another newcomer, These Fucking Feelings, dealing with emotions and mental health head on in the most relatable way possible.
Number 15.
You don't have to be positive all the time. It's perfectly okay to feel sad, angry, annoyed, frustrated, scared, and anxious. Having feelings doesn't make you a negative person. It doesn't even make you weak. It makes you human. And we are here to talk through it all. We welcome you to These Fucking Feelings Podcast, a safe space for all who needs it. Grab a drink and take a seat. The session begins now.
What is up, guys? Welcome to These Fucking Feelings Podcast. I am Micah. As you know, Rebecca is here. Crystal's here. Sorry, I'm used to being with Rebecca, but Crystal's here filling in for Rebecca because she decided to leave California, which I'm still a little bitter about. But she is joining us virtually. And our guests today are the minimalists. We have TK and Jonathan.
Joshua, that's all right, though.
Oh, my God.
I've been called worse.
I bet. Look, by better people. But I gotta tell you guys a funny story.
Thanks, Michael. See, we've been talking for 30 seconds and shade is already being thrown across the air.
Clark Hartwell, counting down this week's podcast chart.
From mental health to true crime, and in at 14 in the charts this week, it's not just true crime anymore, it's Dateline NBC. Bringing real-life mysteries right to your ears, a new entry for number 14.
Number 14.
Tonight on Dateline.
She was panicking. She said, "Becky's dead. Becky's dead."
When somebody's shot 14 times, that's significant.
This was a cold-blooded execution.
The entire city was shaken.
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
She's going through a divorce.
They both, by all accounts, were looking forward to getting the divorce behind them.
We learned that she had a boyfriend.
It's a big deal to look at any possible surveillance cameras.
This is the night of the murder?
Yes. It's a person on a bike in the middle of February.
There was a footprint by the window. There's a person in the driveway multiple times.
That was the first time it really registered with her that she or her children could be in danger.
Everybody had a theory. Nobody ever had any evidence to back any of that up.
There's no possibility of recovering from something like this.
How would you feel winning $1,000 this January? We're giving away a huge $1,000 on January 31st. To enter, simply subscribe to the Podcast Tonight Chance Show on YouTube and like this video. With over 1,000 podcast reviews and Podcast Tonight, you're just one click away from your new favorite podcast. Check us out now at podcasttonight.com.
Landing at Lucky 13 today, newcomer alert once again. We have the Rest is Politics podcast, giving us all things concerning political events around the globe.
This is the charts. Number 13.
Welcome to the Rest is Politics question time with me, Rory Stewart.
And me, Alistair Campbell. So where do you want to start?
Well, I think we should start on New Year resolution, given that this is our New Year recording. Robbie Meeks, what should each main UK party leader have as a New Year's resolution?
Okay, Rishi Sunak, start doing the job. Keir Starmer, more courage.
Very good. I like those two. Another way of framing it is, given that we both think that Keir Starmer is going to be the next Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, do all the things that you actually care about and believe in, because you're not going to win the next election. So this is an opportunity to not worry about the politics and just get on with doing the right stuff. And Keir Starmer, given that you're going to be the next Prime Minister, come up with some pretty clear, bold ideas.
Well, my big problem with that is that I think to fight a campaign, you have to have two mindsets running alongside each other. One is, I could still lose this if you're Keir Starmer. And Rishi Sunak, to fight a good campaign, has to get out of bed thinking he could win.
Listen live across the globe at podcasttonight.com or download the new Podcast Tonight app from your app stores now.
That was the Rest is Politics podcast, arriving straight in at number 13 this week and still holding strong within the top 20, but taking us off guard by dropping 9 places since our last show. Geeks, Geezers and Googleization landing firmly at number 12 this week.
Number 12.
Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. I'm still on break while I'm gearing up for our 7th season of the Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization show. I'll be back in a few weeks with a new format, a few major announcements, and another all-star lineup of guests. In the meantime, I've selected a handful of our most popular episodes from 2023, and whether or not you're listening to this episode for the first time or listening again, Zach Mercurio was so good, we invited him back for the second conversation in early 2023. It won't take but a few seconds to understand why. Let's get started.
Maslow's pyramid is a trap. And what I mean by that is it's a trap because it's very easy to say, oh, we just got to give people their basic needs of food, the basic needs of shelter. We're just giving them a job, so we're fulfilling their basic needs. And they don't need any of the other stuff yet. And I see that all the time, Maslow being used as an excuse, actually not to actualize other people.
Show us some love and hit that subscribe button.
A big congratulations to the guys from Geeks, Geezers and Googleization podcast for making it 3 weeks with us in the charts. If you've just joined us, a happy new year to you and welcome to 2024 and to the Podcast Tonight chart show. We have another podcast hanging in the charts at number 11 this week, everyone's favourite true crime show. You've probably guessed it, sliding all the way down from number 1 last time. It's the Crime Junkie podcast.
Number 11.
It's a little after 8 Saturday morning, June 2nd, 2007 in San Francisco, California. That's when a guy named Carl steps outside onto the front porch of his apartment building. And This apartment building, it's like a standalone triplex style deal. So it's just like 3 units all in a row, all like on the ground floor. Their doors are like side by side. There's actually a picture in the Crime Junkie app if you're listening there, or you can go to the blog post. And you should look because it will really help as I'm talking about the rest of this episode. But anyways, Carl steps out to grab his morning paper, but when he bends over to pick it up, something stops him cold. Something that he can't quite compute. It's blood at the base of a small set of steps leading to the sidewalk.
Experience the best podcast the planet has to offer at podcasttonight.com.
That was Crime Junkie, and this is the Podcast Night Chart Show, and we've arrived to the very first ever Top 10 of 2024. And straight in at number 10 this week is the LOL Podcast, and they're laughing out loud all the way to this week's number 10.
This is the charts. Number 10.
And he's really nice. He helped me up, and then I didn't want it to seem like he was cheating on me. Anyways.
Wait, why are you saying this on the pod if you don't want your mom to know?
Well, she's not going to watch the whole thing.
Listen, I've never heard your first kiss story, so I need to hear it.
No.
Wait, I've known you 20 years and I've never heard this.
This is a thing. We've never heard his first kiss story.
What's up, guys? Welcome to our first episode of the LOL podcast. We got Kate, Maverick, and Harper. Let's get into this.
What the heck?
Hey.
What was that?
Don't do that. Just get onto it.
I'm ready to hear the story.
My story?
Yeah.
All right. Are you guys actually ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
I've been waiting to listen to
I've
it.
been waiting all day to hear this story.
He's hyping this up. Like, he's got his
He
hype
said he
up.
won't tell us the story till we get on the pod.
Yeah, something happened to me on the way here, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is one of the top moments of my life. And obviously, I can't say it until we get into the podcast. So
Okay.
here we are, right?
Yep.
What do you guys think it is, first of all?
Like,
What do you-
I feel like it's so insignificant.
I think it's either probably going to be something that's, like, not appropriate.
Win $1,000 this January by simply subscribing to our YouTube account or liking this chart show.
That was the LOL Podcast, placing at number 10 this week, and down into number 9, and I knew I'd love this podcast as soon as I heard the host name. Bernie Burns is another fresh face on the podcast scene. Morning Somewhere, a refreshing, invigorating start to your day.
This is the Podcast Tonight Chart Show. Number 9.
Hey, cut it out. You're mates. What would your parents say?
We're recording the podcast! Shut up! Good morning to you wherever you are, because it is Morning Somewhere for January 3rd, 2024. It is Wednesday, my dudes. I am Bernie Burns, sitting right across from me. New addition to the podcast staff, Steamboat Willie. How you doing there, Ashley?
Yeah, not too bad. It's Wednesday. There's a lot going on in the world. I thought this morning I could just hit you with a couple of headlines so that you never want to go outside again.
I got headlines too.
You got headlines too? All right.
You're not the only one in this family who can read, young lady. What do you got for me?
All right, I'm gonna just these are gonna come at you quick, and I just want your reactions, okay?
Oh boy, go.
Okay. Intruder breaks into the building of Colorado Supreme Court, allegedly fires shots and is arrested.
Oh, that's terrible. Okay.
Value of X has fallen 71% since the purchase by Musk, and name change from Twitter.
I have thoughts about that.
Kai Zhuang, a Chinese teen, has been found alive in the U.S. after a cyber kidnapping.
Cyber kidnapping. Wow, okay.
Japan Airlines plane is in flames at Tokyo airport. Was, now, no longer.
It's 2 of them. They started the investigation today.
North Carolina pastor arrested after police say he tried to push wife's coworker.
What is
into
going on in
McDonald's
the world?
Deep fryer. Lee J.
Wait, did you say
Myung,
he pushed him into a deep fryer?
tried to push his wife's coworker into a McDonald's deep fryer.
Mark Harwell, counting down this week's podcast chart.
It's a chart show, and coming in at number 8 this week is a brand new podcast, The Rest is History. For all you history buffs out there, this one's for you.
Number 8.
Thank you for listening to The Rest is History. For bonus episodes, early access, ad-free listening, and access to our chat community, sign up at restishistorypod.com. That's restishistorypod.com. We want to be a peace-loving people, but at the same time, courageous. That is why you must be peaceful and courageous at the same time. We want our people to be honor-loving. To that end, you must, from earliest childhood, learn the conception of honor. We want to be a proud people, and you must be proud. Proud to be the youthful members of the greatest nation. We want an obedient people, and you must learn to practice obedience.
This is the Podcast Tonight Chart Show.
A big thanks to the team at the Rest is History podcast. You placed at number 8 this week, and our next podcast has been included on countless best of lists like Eerie Reader, Vogue, The Post, and of course, Podcast Tonight. Morbid creeps its way up 5 spots and sits eerily at number 7 this week.
Number 7.
Hey, weirdos, I'm Ash.
And I'm Elena.
And this is Morbid.
This is Morbid.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking at snacking cheeses.
Snacking cheeses?
Yes.
I recommend, I think they're like, oh fuck, they're like the Bella Romano or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have Merlot ones.
Belgioso?
Yes, not Bella at all.
Gioioso? Something like that. I apologize. I am only 1.4% Italian.
I'm not any percent Italian, so no apologies for me. They have a Merlot one that's really good.
Yeah.
An espresso one, which sounds odd, but is good.
Sounds
and then
good to me.
They have a champagne one that I tried recently. And these are all cheeses, by the way. Really good. 10 out of 10 recommend.
How would you feel winning $1,000 this January? We're giving away a huge $1,000 on January 31st. To enter, simply subscribe to the Podcast Tonight Chart Show on YouTube and like this video. With over 1,000 podcast reviews at Podcast Tonight, you're just one click away from your new favorite podcast. Check us out now at podcasttonight.com.
Just above Morbid, at number 6 is the Rest is Entertainment podcast, advancing 4 places from last week. Your one-stop shop for all things entertainment, news and pop culture. Over to your hosts, Marina and Richard.
Number 6.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of 2024 of The Rest is Entertainment with me, Marina Hyde.
And me, Richard Osman. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. May it be a wonderful one for all of you.
Happy New Year, Marina.
And to you, Richard. We have an exciting journey ahead of us this year.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine?
Where are we going to go? Where aren't we going to go?
Where aren't we going to go? I was thinking when you talked about Star Wars Christmas in the Boxing Day episode. It's a very good episode if you haven't heard it. I'd really like to be a Wookiee.
Yes.
I think maybe that's what 2024 holds for me. I've got the height for it. And, you know, who knows?
You can wail incomprehensibly.
Oh, I can wail incomprehensibly.
Oh, yes.
If you're looking for someone to wail incomprehensibly, it's me or Bradley
But
Walsh.
somehow still be very appealing.
Is he 6'7"? I don't think so.
Now, today we are going to talk about things that we have loved over the last year, but also that we are very much looking forward to in 2024.
Yes, I thought we might start with television because there's actually, you know, the first week of any new year, there's an awful lot of new stuff that comes out.
Belter after belter.
Banger after banger.
Experience the best podcast the planet has to offer at podcasttonight.com.
That was the Rest is Entertainment podcast. You can check them out at podcasttonight.com, and we've made it to this week's top 5. Climbing 6 spots from last week's 11, knocking Lex Fridman's podcast out of the number 5 spot, sees us delve into a world of intrigue and mystery. It's the Mortal Sin podcast.
Number 5.
Worm farming. I'm Josh Mankiewicz, and this is Mortal Sin, a podcast from Dateline. Our final episode, The Worm Dude. After Nick Hackney was charged with his wife's murder, there was quite a bit of soul-searching among the members of Christ Community Church, and in the wider community of Bremerton, Washington as well. Remember, Apostle Robert Biley said he'd had suspicions about the youth pastor years earlier, back in 1997 when Dawn died. Wiley told me others in the church had felt the same way.
People mentioned their suspicions to me. I also had suspicions, but there were many people that were very much rallying around him to support him in a tragic event. And I was not sure, despite my suspicions, that what I thought may have happened actually happened.
Keep up to date with us. Search your socials for @PodcastTonight.
Everyone loves a bit of mortal sin, and that's why they place at number 5 in the charts this week. And with an impressive leap from number 9 up to the number 4 spot in the charts, we have American Potential. Clearly making a huge splash across the globe and trending on all major platforms. Take it away, American Potential.
Number 4.
Why did you decide to open a hybrid school instead of just homeschooling your own kid?
We have so many parents who want to take their kids out of the system, but for one reason or another, they're not able to give full attention to the child. So we've got a handful of parents who both families, both mom and dad work. And so even though their desire is to homeschool their kids, they're not able to put that time in. And so we've seen a lot of parents just make incredible sacrifices where they're like, I don't want to lose the opportunity to be with my kids and learn with my kids. I just can't do it full time. So our school is 3 days a week. And then we put out a newsletter that guides them through different learning activities that they can do at home. And so the parents' desire to engage with the child and still have homework time and academic time and unify their family just in that one little way, they still have that opportunity to do that.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential.
The Podcast Tonight Chart Show with Clark Hartwell.
That was the American Potential podcast, and up a whopping 12 spots from last week's ranking and making it 3 weeks in the podcast charts, straight from the boardroom. Diary of a CEO is at number 3 this week.
This is the charts. Number 3.
What I have here is a variety of different shapes and sizes of poop.
Yeah.
What does this tell us about our health?
Well, if your poop looks like this, to me, that's grounds to talk to a doctor.
Dr. Will Golsowitz, world-renowned gut health doctor,
who has a wealth of information on
how we can improve our gut health through food and lifestyle changes.
We are currently living through an epidemic of gut health issues, and if we want to be healthy humans, we absolutely need a healthy gut microbiome in order to accomplish that. So let's break this down. First of all, microbes are visible. On your thumb, there are as many microbes as there are people in the UK.
Really?
And gut microbes play a critical and essential role in controlling whether or not you suffer from depression, because 95% of the happy hormone is produced by the gut. It controls your cognition, your memory, your energy levels. Your gut is the place where you are making decisions. And study after study after study shows us that when people eat more, not only do they empower the gut microbes, but also they lose weight, they're less likely to die of heart disease, less likely to be diagnosed with multiple different types of cancer.
No way.
Yes.
What about alcohol?
The science is clear. When we drink to the point of having a hangover, is that dehydration? Absolutely not. The issue is you have caused significant damage to your microbiome. But the gut is forgiving, and the choices that you make today within 24 hours will have an effect on your microbiome. I want people to eat a diet where they can eat as much as they want without restriction and still achieve their weight goals. And this is completely possible.
Clark Hartwell, counting down this week's podcast chart.
Congratulations to Dragon's Den Stephen Bartlett for hitting the 3rd spot today. And we're down to your top 2 this week for the very first chart show of 2024. Thanks for sticking with us. Our consistent chart topper continues its dominance, proving once again that science truly rocks. In 2nd place this week for another week running, it's the non-mover at number 2, the Huberman Lab.
Number 2.
Welcome to the Huberman Lab podcast, where we discuss science and science-based tools for everyday life. I'm Andrew Huberman, and I'm a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine. My guest today is David Goggins. David Goggins is a retired Navy SEAL who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's also a highly accomplished ultramarathon runner. For those of you that don't know, ultramarathons are distances longer than 26 miles, and in David's case, often longer than 200 miles. For his achievements in athletics, he has been inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame. He also held a Guinness World Record for the most pull-ups completed in 24 hours. I should mention that not only was David a decorated Navy SEAL, but he also graduated from Army Ranger School. David is also a highly successful writer, having authored 2 books, the first entitled Can't Hurt Me, and the second entitled Never Finished, both of which are bestsellers.
Well done to Andrew Huberman for hitting this week's second place, which means we just have one spot left to chart.
This is the charts. The wait is over. This is this week's number 1 podcast. Number one.
Claiming the top spot after an impressive climb from last week's number 12, give it up and show them some love in the comments. Proving to be everyone's go-to source for all things tech. Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson is this week's number 1 on the Podcast Tonight chart show.
Number 1.
Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. At Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Hello and welcome, tech enthusiasts, to 2024 and Happy New Year. You've tuned into the first episode for 2024, and what better way to start the year than by looking backwards with a fabulous flashback episode of Tech Talk. Today we're diving into a digital delight, a curated collection of the creme de la creme of our topics from the first half of 2023. I've handpicked 20 terrific topics, each one a testament to the transformative power of technology. So tighten your seatbelts for a thrilling throwback through the most memorable and mind-blowing moments of Tech Talk. Let's launch into this luminous lineup.
Good news, folks. The Australian Bureau of Statistics shows us that incidents of heart attacks are dropping significantly over the past 20 years. The bad news, folks, is that coronary heart disease is still a leading cause of death. And in 2020, get this, it was the leading cause of death in Australia. And that was the year that COVID hit.
Number 1.
A huge congratulations to the hardworking team at Tech Talk for making it to this week's number 1. And that wraps up our top 20 podcasts of the week. Remember, these rankings are all thanks to you and your awesome listening choices. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to help our show grow. And of course, be entered to the $1,000 giveaway this January. I'll see you the same time next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Podcast Tonight Chart Show. We're back, counting down the podcast next Sunday.